an overview of percentages. It's really important to remember that percentages are equivalent fractions out of 100. And percentage means per out of cent 100. So for example, any percent will be an amount out of a total that we have got to be an equivalent fraction of a percentage out of 100. So for example, 31 out of 50, an amount of 31 out of a total of 50. An equivalent fraction out of 100 would be 62 out of 100, which is 62%. Or as a decimal, 0.62. So any percentage can be written as a fraction, a percentage, or a decimal. And it means the same thing, an amount out of a total. If we're converting from a fraction or a decimal to a percentage, we multiply by 100. So, a fraction is an amount out of a total. To change it to a percentage on 36 over 90 times 100, 40%. You can also change it by thinking of, change this to a decimal, 36 either over 90 or divided by 90, it doesn't matter which, divided by 90 because the line in a fraction means divide. As a decimal, it's 0.4 times 100 gets us to 40%. So basically, a fraction or a decimal, to get it to a percentage, we're multiplying by 100%. 0.75 is 75%. 2.1 is 210%. Whether it's a fraction or a decimal, multiply by 100 or by 100%. If we're converting from a percentage, we divide by 100%. So, we've got two options. We might want to get it to a fraction or a decimal. If we wanted to get it to a fraction, 62 divided by 100 as a fraction, and then simplify. This is why it's easier to have your scientific calculator. 62 over 100, simplify it. It's 31 over 50, we knew that one. If we wanted to get it to be a decimal, we can do 31 divided by 50, or we can just divide by 100. 62 divided by 100, 0.62. So see, both of these are dividing by 100. Over 100 to get to a fraction and simplify, or just divide by 100 to get to a decimal. So this one, if we want to get it to a fraction, over 100 and simplify, 3 over 2, or 1.5. Divide by 100, but we put it over 100 as a fraction, or I can just divide by 100, 1.5 as a decimal. There's a couple of different types of problems you'll have to do with percentages. For example, finding a percentage of an amount. Honestly, the best way to do this is to write what you want to find. 13% of 140 equals. Rewrite it. 13, make the percentage over 100. Change of to times and write the total. And if you type that in, percentage over 100 times 140, you'll get your answer. So writing the correct working supports you to get the right answer. write the percentage as a fraction or a decimal, and times it by the total. Oops. Oops, I needed to do times 140. Now, if you're using a scientific calculator and you get a funny sort of answer, and we want a money answer, arrow key, 18.2. Now remember, this is money. So 18.2, you need 2 decimal places or whole numbers for money. If it's given you a single decimal place, remember we've got a 0 on the end. It's $18.20. Writing an amount out of a total as a percentage. So if there are 18 girls in a class of 25 students, what percentage of the class are girls? Here, and in any percentage question, remember, percentages come back to an amount out of a total is a percentage out of 100. So here, they're giving us the percentage that they want out of the total, and we needed to find the amount. Here, they've told us the amount and the total, and they want us to find what percentage that is. So we write it as a fraction. Oh, the pen's got really grotty. Write it as a fraction, then times by 100% to get it into a percentage. Sorry, we went crooked there. So we're answering the question, so it's what percentage are girls. 18 out of a total of 25 times by 100 to get back to a percentage. 18 out of 25 times 100, 72%. So you'll see that we need to be thinking about whether I'm going from a percentage, divide by 100, or to a percentage, times by 100. Using correct working and thinking in terms of amount, total, and percentage should help out. We might also be asked to look at profit or loss. We'll do that in a later video, but profit or loss is always written as profit or loss out of the cost price of an item as a percentage, so times by 100. So we can come back to that one later.